In primitive societies, individuals are born into a natural state. Then they enter into social contracts as members of societies. The paper wasp, Polistes, is the genus. You'll see them nesting under the eaves of your house. They make those little nests with the pedestal, and they hang upside down. Typically, they're founded by single individuals. This is a female who emerged in the late summer of the previous year. She mated. All the males died off. She overwintered someplace, and then early in the spring or late winter, she comes out and she starts constructing her nest. She'll construct this nest. She'll do all of her foraging, collecting prey items to feed to the larvae, which are inside of these cells, and does this all on her own. On the other hand, some individuals may co-found a nest. Two sisters may have overwintered together, and in the spring they go out and they found a nest together, and they get a little faster start by nesting together. Initially, they'll cooperate in construction of the nest as well as finding prey to feed, but eventually one of them will become dominant and become the alpha foundress. The other one becomes what we call the beta foundress. She's subordinate. So the alpha foundress will end up doing more egg laying and less foraging, and over time, this asymmetry in reproduction increases. When the first individuals emerge on the nest as adults, they are daughters of one or the other of them. Usually it's the alpha foundress. And then they may decide that they want to stay on the nest, or they may stay on the nest and work for their mother. And they have few options other than doing that because the reproductives don't produce males until late in the season. So if they were to emerge, there were no males for them to mate with. So they're kind of trapped in a cruel bind. They don't have the option to live in a natural state in that they don't have individuals that they can mate with and live in a natural state. So they're sort of caught in this agreement. Their contract isn't a very good contract. So they have to stay. They provide food for the nest. They help to construct the nest and make it larger. Then over time, they could lay eggs to produce males because they have a kind of parthenogenesis where they can produce males. They could do that. But the queen, the alpha foundress, becomes more and more dominant over them and physically suppresses them from laying eggs. Occasionally, they will sneak an egg here and there. Sometimes they may even go form their own nest and produce a nest that only produces males. So they may break the contract. They didn't like the contract, didn't serve their interests, whatever interests are to a wasp. So anyway, what happens is this society forms, you get more and more competition for reproduction. Sometimes the competition between the alpha and the beta foundress is the alpha foundress lets the beta foundress lay a few eggs. And so that's sort of a little bit of a payment to keep her on the nest, working for the nest. In the case of the workers, sometimes they can sneak an egg that they lay that'll become a male. So there's this competition for reproduction. The queen punishes the cheaters. When she finds the cheater, she will often bite on them, and they'll grab each other, they'll fall to the ground. So the queen keeps a very strong hand on the other individuals on the nest because their social contract isn't a really good deal, and they keep fighting back against it. And in some cases, in many cases, it becomes a very despotic relationship where you've got the queen is in charge of everything, and the other workers aren't getting the best deal that they could get. So you have a despotic relationship, and by the end of the season, it's pretty much chaotic on these nests with so many workers, and then more reproductives are emerging, and the social system breaks down, and the new generation of reproductives disperses. In more advanced societies, options for living in a natural state are very limited or absent. I mean, can you imagine living in Shanghai, and you get born in Shanghai, and you become of an independent age, a reproductive age, and you decide that you're going to live outside of the boundaries of society. You're going to live on your own. You can do it all yourself. You're going to hunt for food. You're going to build your own house, and you're going to defend it for yourself. It isn't going to happen. So we've sort of reached this point in our more advanced societies and human societies where your options are limited to go back to a natural state. And that's true in the more advanced social insects. They reach a point where it just simply isn't feasible for an individual who's born into that nest to go out and live a natural life. They get kind of bound into this social contract because of the structure of their society, which a large part of the structures of the society is the structure of the nest. Here we have Pogonomyrmex ants in Florida. They burrow down into the sand. They make these beautiful nests. This is Walter Schinkel. He goes out, he finds these nests. He pours into the nests liquid aluminum, which then flows down through the nest and into all these little chambers that they have. And then he digs the whole thing out. And then he hangs them up, and he actually sells them as unique artwork for museums and even some private owners. Here you have termite castles of sand. These are essential for termites to survive. They have to live in one of these. They can't go out on their own. The only one who goes out on their own to start a nest is the king and queen, the original mated pair that from which all the other termites are descended. They can construct one of these on their own. But inside of this, there's thermal regulation, there's airflow goes through here, provides them with all the things that they need to survive. They can't go out on their own. The workers can't. Honeybee societies, the same thing. These worker honeybees, they can't go out and do this by themselves. They can't construct this. It requires a whole social system to build these combs which serve as the social substrate of the nest. Surviving on their own won't happen. They can't live very long outside of this nest without either freezing to death, overheating, or starving, because they need all the individuals to provide for those functions. And here is an incredible society here. These are the leafcutter ants. This is one nest that's being excavated. They're digging it out, and you see the enormity of this leafcutter ants. So these complex nest structures, again, lock individuals in to where they can't really go out and exercise their natural right to form their own nest and be independent. This is another kind of social insect nest. These are stingless bees. You find these, they're pantropical, but they construct these wonderful societies that have the intricacies of the combs and the honey pots, and it almost looks like something from a scientific a sci-fi movie. And here's a film that shows you some more of their structure. There's one individual in this per nest that protects the whole, typically. Once they're disturbed, you'll see more guards, but typically they have one guard. You can see her going in and out. She comes out. She goes back in as an individual comes. She checks her credentials. And they construct their combs in layers on top of each other. And around the outer edges, these are the honey pots. That's where they store the nectar that they bring in and convert it into honey. And these combs here have pupae in them that are going to be emerging in a few days. Here's a natural honeybee nest. It's natural, and we had it actually construct its nest inside of a box so we could watch it. But again, here you can see the large number of bees, the social interactions, these combs, This is where they have to be. They can't go out and survive independently of this nest. They have to be living in a nest. Sometimes these societies become so specialized and individuals become so specialized that the social system has a different kind of constraint put on it besides the nest. These are leafcutter ants that occupy that big nest that we were looking at in a couple of slides ago. The leafcutter ants go out, they cut leaves from trees, they bring them back into the nest, they excavate those huge nests. As you can see here, these individuals are specialized for cutting the leaves and take the leaf pieces, which weigh tens of times more than the individual ants. Then they bring them back to the nest where they grow a fungus garden. They add things to the leaves inside the nest. They defecate on them so they can initiate the growth of the fungus. This is the fungus all in here, the white stuff. And here they are working on the nest, masticating it. The leaves, they pack it into this garden. They were 60 million years ago engaged in agriculture. I mean, way before we ever did. And this is what they live on. They live on the fungus itself. They don't eat the leaves. The fungus is what they survive on. So they can't survive outside of this structured society.